Today I offered a live Zoom Q&A about exercising your horse with positive reinforcement, and I asked people to send in their questions ahead in order to get them answered anonymously. You were also able to ask your question live in Zoom in the chat, and it was very fun to do. There were, however, a few more questions that I didn't have time to answer, so I will be answering them here and now live on YouTube. I really loved this question. Thank you very much for asking this question. What reasons did you start using positive reinforcement? With horsemanship at the same time as I discovered positive reinforcement. The natural horsemanship came with a step-by-step program, do this, then that, then that. It was really easy to follow, but I also realized, because I was learning about positive reinforcement, that positive reinforcement was strengthening a behavior with an appetitive, something the horse wants to avoid. So I realized, and this was in the 90s already, so it's like a long time ago, like almost 25 years ago, I realized that it was more fun to offer the horse something in return for the things they would do for me. Because after all, they didn't come up with the idea, let's go for a ride, let's put a saddle on me, let's jump on my back. No, that's all the idea of the person, of the people. So I really wanted to make it worthwhile for the horse to do the things that I wanted to do with them. So the more I learned about appetites, things they want to have and want to work for, and versus the things they want to avoid, the things you use in negative reinforcement, the more I realized that I wanted to positive reinforcement more and more. And before I became aware of these principles of positive reinforcement training and negative reinforcement training, which is avoidance training, of course, I tried to use rewards as good as possible, and I did reward my horse all the time. However, I wasn't always strengthening the behavior. Like you learn in a riding school, at the end of the lesson, you give your horse a long rein, and also in between, of course, a long rein, and you pat him on the neck, and that should be a reward. When I learned about positive and negative reinforcement, I learned that it's not the trainer that determines if something is a reward, but the receiver. So I started to look at, do I get more behavior if I give a long rein after a trot? Not really. So maybe it's a reward, but it's not a reinforcer for a specific behavior. You don't get more of that behavior or better quality. So that's where I started to really approach it from the horse's perspective. And I realized that if you can earn good things, that it's way better for the horse to engage with you instead of and horses are so clear. There's so many examples of people that train their horses traditionally with aversives, with whips, with ropes, with other ways to force them. And those are the people that walk into a pasture and the horse runs away from them. And that's the horse's way of telling them they don't like what's coming, because the horse is anticipating on what's coming, because they know what the person's going to do. And sometimes when people are asking me, how can I teach my horse to come towards me in the pasture? It's not something that you have to train a horse to do. It's more like a positive byproduct from starting positive reinforcement, which is a clear sign that the horse cannot wait to engage with you because you have something super valuable to offer. So those are the reasons why I started doing positive reinforcement. Yeah, that's the reason before the reason is I wanted to cultivate a friendship with my horse in which we both have a say in. I wanted my horse to be able to say, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do this. And that I would be able to say, okay, you don't have to if you don't want to. And with positive reinforcement, I also can communicate and ask to my horse, but maybe that's too much of an ask. Would you be willing to do this if I make it easier? Would you be willing to do this if you get something valuable in return? And I noticed, and also because horses are, of course, social animals, and they're hardwired to please, because being in a social environment in a group guarantees safety and survival. So yes, they have a high will to please, but if you can also give them something back, what positive reinforcement training brought me more than any other training is understanding my horse, learning to listen to my horse, what they say. I know exactly what the horses that I work with, what they love to do, what they like to do, what they don't like to do, what they refuse to do, what they are afraid of, all those reasons. And in positive reinforcement, there's way more space to listen to your horse and try to solve their problem, why they don't want to do something for you, in a way that they understand and that they can change their mind out of choice, because now they want to do it. If they don't want to go into the trailer because they're afraid, they have a trauma, or they don't want to leave their friends behind, that you can say, okay, let's see what is the problem and how can I solve the problem for the horse. And that's, I think, what positive reinforcement training does so much better than traditional or negative reinforcement training. Because in negative reinforcement training, usually the way that I was trained in that was the horse doesn't have a say. You are the boss, you are the leader later on, and you determine what happens, when it happens, how it happens. And that's just not a way that I want to communicate with a friend, that I am the only one that determines what is happening, when it's happening, how it's happening, how long it's happening. And especially not if that other person or living being is doing that because he wants to avoid something really, really nasty and aversive. So yeah, the reason that I start is I really wanted to cultivate friendships with horses and make it a win-win. And I found that in positive reinforcement. And if I come across something that is even better than that, I will absolutely start using that. But positive reinforcement clicker training is the best I have now to do what I want, the values that I have. And one of the values is welfare of the horse. That's my most important value in training. And positive reinforcement fits that value so perfectly. So that's why I stick with positive reinforcement, and that's why I like it. And I see the results, and I'm not only seeing the results in the training, in the behaviors that I train, but I also see the results. There are different results in the friendships that people cultivate with horses when they start doing clicker training and positive reinforcement training. So that's my reason for starting and for using positive reinforcement training and starting HippoLogic and clickertraining.ca. So if you want to know more, if you want to connect with me, please do. If you want to get a free clicker training assessment with me, find the link in the description of this video. I offer a few each week, and in that assessment I will help you find your weak skills and your strong skills, and at the end of the assessment you know exactly what to focus on to get more of the results